at, the stock market is crazy and chaotic, and I made my mission to help you guys own it. It has been another great morning so far this morning in the stock market. We're going to be talking about why that might be and where we could see things headed from here. Also, lots of things to be watching for this morning. I'll give you 4 stocks to watch this morning as well on news, and it's opening day. So we're going to talk about one stock that might be worth watching because of opening day and the MLB. Lord Fender says, make baseball full contact and then I might care. I know baseball is such either you love it or you hate it. Either it's exciting to you or it's boring. I can appreciate that, Lord Fenrir. I understand it. It's not exactly the fastest moving game. I wonder though, if you hate watching baseball, but you love watching golf, and I'm not saying that you do, Lord Fenrir, but if you're that person that loves to watch golf and hates watching baseball, conversation's over, right? I actually, I can tolerate watching golf. It's not like I prefer to watch baseball, of course, over golf. But if you like watching golf and you hate watching baseball, that makes zero sense to me. So don't talk to me if if that's you. You don't get to say that you hate watching baseball if you like to watch golf. But we'll talk about that as well. Looking at the overall markets, it's been a really nice morning, especially after a day like yesterday. Huge moves in the market usually are followed by either some sort of correction or maybe just a leveling out. It's not the case this morning. We're seeing some pretty decent moves here. The S&P 500 so far is up 0.6% or 26 points, 200 points for the Dow. It's up also 0.6%. The NASDAQ is leading the way here, is up 75 basis points. It's up 0.75% or 100 points. Crude oil's back in it as well. That is up 1.1% or up 80 cents per WTI crude, for WTI crude per barrel. So that's at $73.77. And then Bitcoin is also up 191 points at 28,640. I didn't plan to talk about Bitcoin and why I think it's continuing to go up and why I think it will continue to go up. But we really should talk about some of these dealings with China and some of the smaller companies. If you guys haven't heard the China and Brazil news when it comes to them exchanging goods and the currencies that they're going to be using and them getting rid of the dollar, I think that's going to continue to become more of a headline. We might talk about that this afternoon, but I don't want to get into that this morning because I don't have enough info to talk about it on. I wasn't prepared for that. Also, we have the weird news of the day, and I hate to break it to you, but we may be faced with a real-life Last of Us situation for the weird news. Stay tuned for that, as well as birthdays at the end of the stream. Let me hit up my starting 5 here. Alan, Lord Fenrir, Kevin Hawthorne, Biker Brian, Jose. You guys are my starting 5. If you didn't make the starting 5, it could be because you're not subscribed and hitting that notification bell. So make sure you're doing that and showing up early. You might just get shouted out in the next stream. But yeah, let's get into it. So jobless claims this morning. That was the initial headline for the kind of like the next move up. Futures were already up before jobless claims came in, and then they started to spike a little bit after jobless claims came out, as well as GDP for the first quarter. So we're going to take a look at that and revisions for the fourth quarter as well. Jobless claims for the week ended March 25th totaled 198,000, up 7,000 from the previous period, and a bit higher than the $195,000 estimate the Labor Department reported today. Though the number was slightly higher than expectations, the total indicates that companies are slow to lay off workers despite expectations that unemployment rate will rise throughout the year. Continuing claims, which run a week behind, edged up 4,000 to 1.689. That was below the FactSet estimate of 1.6935. The 4-week moving average of weekly claims, which smooths volatility, the numbers edged up to 198,250, but that has shown below 200,000 since mid-January. The relatively benign claims numbers come despite aggressive Federal Reserve efforts to slow down inflation. In large part, central bank is targeting a labor market beset by sharp supply. According to estimates last week, this is according to CNBC, central bankers expected the unemployment rate to rise 4.5% this year from its current 3.6% level. Doing so would require the loss of more than 540,000 jobs, according to Atlanta Fed calculator. a separate, which this always blows my mind. We really want people to lose jobs to save the economy. It just seems counterintuitive, counterproductive, whatever you want to throw in there. It just seems dumb. The final Commerce Department reading for gross domestic product showed the economy grew at 2.6% annualized rate in the fourth quarter, slightly below the previous estimate of 2.7%. That change came primarily due to downward revision in consumer spending and exports, the department said. Growth likely accelerated for the first 3 months of 2023, according to the Atlanta Fed's GDP Now tracker. That gauge shows GDP rising 3.2%. So still doesn't feel recessionary. Here's the thing about this, and I've been talking about this for now, dating back all the way into December, I think is as far as I can remember talking about this. There's been a lot of questions as to why we're not seeing a lot of jobless claims, despite a lot of the headlines with tech stocks, or not tech stocks, tech companies. And now we're starting to see some government layoffs as well. A couple of people had mentioned, I think yesterday, about, the trucking business, and Lord Fenrir might be able to speak to this as well, cutting back a lot too. But there's not a lot of jobless claims. And I've talked about this for quite some time. And I finally heard Steve Leisman talk about this morning, because the question was asked, why are we not seeing unemployment go up, even though we're seeing some of these headlines on layoffs? And I've mentioned this quite a bit, that I think one big reason is because of these generous severance packages, right? Microsoft, Salesforce, Meta, a lot of these bigger companies that have laid off 10, 20,000 workers, Amazon just recently laid off another 9,000. They're given 4-month severance packages. Not only that, but the labor market's still strong. So many of these people that are getting laid off are finding jobs relatively quickly. And so, layoffs just started for Meta, I believe, in late November, early December. 4 months from then is right now. So maybe we'll see some sort of movement in April. But a lot of them didn't really start laying off workers until January, February. That's where we kind of really saw a lot of those headlines really taking place. So if they all got severance packages, they're not going to really file for unemployment until, the severance runs out, or they found another job within that 4-month time frame, which, if you got 120 days to find a job, you're usually able to find one in that amount of time. Lord Fenrir asks, so have you been keeping tabs on Rumble? I think I've mentioned it enough at this point, so I'm going to lay off of it from now. I haven't been keeping tabs on Rumble. I looked at it yesterday. Didn't we talk about it yesterday? I'm sure it's moving. That's probably why you're talking about it. We can pull that up, and we'll get into the charts in just a second. But I wanted to just address the unemployment and GDP numbers and all that this morning, just so because I'm sure a lot of you guys are curious about that. Yes, I see that Rumble's up another 3.25%. Pretty decent move on that. Let's take a look at that. I'm really struck. Like, I've had a couple people now talk to me about Rumble, and how I should do that as well. Is it possible? Somebody answers. Is it possible to simulcast on Rumble? Do you guys see that? Do you guys see a lot of people simulcasting on YouTube and Rumble? Because I've actually considered doing it. If it doesn't require an extra too much extra work, I would consider doing it. I just don't know how I would be able to actually do much in there, only because most of it, if I'm not mistaken, is podcasts related to right-leaning stuff. But I hear that they actually pay out pretty well. Chris Edwards, Rumble's another media platform similar to like a YouTube, but with less restrictions on things you can say, apparently. Let's take a look at that chart right now. Here's your Rumble chart. Pretty decent move. This is a 5-minute chart here on Rumble. We take a look at the daily. Also looks pretty good. Pretty decent move since the beginning of the year. And looks like it's getting ready to break this downtrend. Let's actually draw that downtrend here. So, and this is the shorter term downtrend. Oh, maybe it's going to let me do it. There we go. This is the shorter term downtrend on Rumble. But there's an even longer one that this could potentially break too. Look at this. So if we go back all the way to its highs here, you can even kind of look at it from that perspective as well. Could be getting close to some sort of breakout on that. See what I mean? So interesting. The chart looks actually halfway decent on this. It's up another 3% today. Was up 4, almost 5% yesterday. So some good moves on that. All right. So a couple of stocks to watch this morning that have started to make some news. First one's going to be Ford. Ford, let's go ahead and pull up that Ford chart. Ford made some news. They're making some more deals. Jeez, the daily chart looks rough on Ford. It's not pretty there. It's not pretty at all. Let's go ahead and bust this out some so we can see that 5-minute chart. I got to find a quicker way. I need to get with Don on how to be more proficient on TradingView. If you guys aren't familiar with these charts, these are the zones that Don has drawn out. If you guys aren't familiar with Don from the Don Fron Show, I highly encourage you to go check him out. He is my partner in crime over at patreon.com/ownthechaos, an absolute genius when it comes to options trading as well as all things trading, but options in particular. Go ahead and check us out at patreon.com/ownthechaos, and you can get these custom charts over there, as well as access to our Discord, exclusive content, trade alerts, you name it. It's over there at patreon.com, starting at $5 a month. It's really not a whole lot of risk to you, but it certainly means a lot to us and helps support us and our efforts to continue to create content for you guys. So go check us out over at patreon.com/ownthechaos. We'd love to have you guys support in that way. But looking at Ford right now, Ford is up over 1% after the American automaker announced an agreement with both PT Vale Indonesia and China's Zhejiang Huao Cobalt Company. It's a cobalt company in China. The total investment is $4.5 billion in nickel production in Indonesia. If you guys haven't been keeping up with the nickel issues, there's been a lot of supply problems with nickel. And actually, there's some people that are claiming that perhaps there isn't even enough nickel to go around to create all the EVs that are going to be needed in the world. It's a finite product, guys, just like a lot of other natural resources. So it'll be interesting to see who kind of wins that battle. Of course, we have Tesla that's actually starting to think of ways to, mitigate that and actually not really use nickel at all, or lithium for that matter. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out in the future. But that is the news on Ford. As you can see, it's up 1%. It's actually had a pretty decent rally here in the last few days. We go back to the daily chart, and it's not looking half bad after it popped up out of this zone. And you can see that it's kind of retested this zone several times, and now it's back up out of it again. Ford is one that Don actually trades quite a bit. He implements the wheel strategy a lot on this one. And you can see why. It's nice and cheap. The options are cheap on this. You collect the rent on it and basically reinvest that money on with the wheel, using the wheel strategy, and it usually ends up working out pretty well. He's using this in a smaller growth account, which he has grown significantly since the beginning of the year. If you guys want access to that, go check it out over at patreon.com/ownthechaos. Links in the description. So that is the news on Ford. And looks like if we get a move over this expected move here out of the zone, it could end up moving even higher here. We'll see. We shall see. It's at $12 now, 19 cents. And not looking half bad. Rumble isn't a right platform. They just don't censor the right, so lefties bitch about it. Whatever you say. I mean, all I ever hear is righties talking about it. I guess that might be true. I'd have to look a little bit deeper into it. The next stock that made headlines this morning was Roku. Let's see here. Roku is actually starting to move into this zone here as well. If you guys didn't catch the news on Roku, they ended up making public that they will lay off around 6% of its workforce, which will impact roughly 200 employees. So not really like a big deal as far as when compared to a Meta Platforms or Microsoft or Amazon or what have you. But the decision came as the firm looks to reduce its operating expenses year over year. As a result, the stock's actually moving up. And everybody always kind of asks me this question. Why is the stock moving up off of a layoff? Isn't that bad news? Yes, for the workers it is. But think about how this is going to affect their bottom line for Roku. If you're already struggling and you're not growing like you used to, what do? You try to create a more efficient, more improved balance sheet. If you're taking costs, overhead off of your balance sheet, that actually improves your balance sheet, which investors like. Stock was up 5.5% yesterday. It's up another 3.5% this morning. It's looking really good in this zone here on the daily chart. And we'll see if this pops up out of here. There's another resistance here at around 66.69. Pause. And it looks like it could actually end up making an even stronger move. Remember, when we first started to see layoffs from Meta, that's what really kind of sparked that stock to really continue to make its monster run. It's a 70% move since the beginning of the year. So not saying that Roku is going to go up 70%, but it has certainly been sideways for a little while, and maybe this could be the catalyst that actually jumpstarts this to break over that next resistance at 66. So keep an eye on that. That's one worth watching this morning. And then next one we got is Kohl's. So if you guys didn't catch that Kohl's news, we'll chat about it right here. Let me pull up that chart as well. Here's KSS. Pull up the 5-minute chart and see where that's at. That's up 5 1/3% this morning. And it also had a good day yesterday too. Let's here is Kohl's on that 5-minute. So you guys can catch that move in real time here. But Kohl's had some interesting news today. They watched the CEO, Thomas Kingsbury, disclose a $2.02 million stock purchase per the SEC filing. Kingsbury added 92,500 shares to the company's common stock in multiple transactions at prices ranging from $21.73 to $21.92. So huge stock purchase from the CEO, and now trading at $23.33. So he's already made quite a bit of money off of that purchase. That's why the stock's up nearly 6% this morning. So pretty strong move there. You're going to spend that kind of money on your own stock, then you must have an awful lot of confidence as to where it's going. So Kohl's is actually making some pretty decent moves. This was one of those consumer stocks, though, that actually didn't do well last time around in their earnings. So I'd be interested to see how this plays out. Maybe the CEO thinks or they're operationally turning some things around. But this kind of plays in. Remember what I was talking about? I believe it was yesterday or the day before. I think it was whenever we were covering Lululemon that, this past earnings season has really kind of thrown me for a loop when it comes to the consumer and what exactly they're buying and what they're not buying. Kohl's was one of those ones that just didn't do well. The inventories were sky high, and so that's kind of what brought the stock down on their earnings. So we'll continue to watch this one, but it's up 5.5% this morning, and looking pretty sharp, looking pretty good on that huge purchase from the CEO. Next one, Philip Morris. I've talked about Philip Morris quite a bit over the summer and mentioned that, hey, like if we're expecting some sort of recession, that Philip Morris could end up being one of those stocks that could do well. You know, stocks related to vices such as smoking. If you guys aren't familiar with Philip Morris, they cover cigarettes, or tobacco manufacturer, I guess is how they're categorized. But the stock's starting to move up, not necessarily because of a fear of a recession, but the news came out today. They received an analyst upgrade from JP Morgan. The financial institution hiked its price target towards the tobacco leader by 22%, stating a new target of $116 a share. So interesting upgrade from them on Philip Morris. Some people have moral reasons as to why they won't trade this, but upgrade like that could send the stock moving. It's up around 1.76% this morning. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that in case you guys hadn't seen that. That's the stocks that are making headlines this morning. Talking about the nickel comments that I had made, Lord Fenner says, I've seen they are working to create rare earth minerals synthetically. I'm sure it's coming. Yeah, probably. I don't know how they would do that, but I guess they've done that in the past already, right? With with diamonds, right? Like you can make synthetic diamonds. If you can make synthetic diamonds, why can't you make synthetic other rare materials like that, right? I guess we can't rule it out. Can't say it's impossible. Take a look at Hershey, says Philip Stroh. And then Rob T says, ironically, the CEO of Philip Morris is a non-smoker. I mean, yeah, that is pretty ironic. What is even Hershey's? There it is, the Hershey company, HSY. I don't know. I may have looked at Hershey once in my entire career. But yeah, that's making a heck of a move. It's up 0.25%. This doesn't look like something that I would touch on a chart. Just looking at the chart, I probably wouldn't touch this. We can take a look and see what's going on, why it's moving as much as it is. Let's see here. Fundamentally, stock is at 26, almost 27 times next year's earnings. It's up 17% over the last 52 weeks. It's up 11% year to date. Obviously, making a strong move over the last couple of days, but it's expensive. It's expensive. Looks as if it got upgraded yesterday as a defensive play. If you're expecting some sort of recession or what have you, people flock to. I guess it kind of plays into that vice category. I don't know. I would think not, but I guess I don't know. It's interesting. So looks as if equity analyst Chris Carey upgraded the stock to equal weight from a prior underperformance. Pricing actions prove fruitful and defensive shift in investor sentiment believes in the company. I don't necessarily agree with this. I mean, this analyst that's upgrade is making the argument that there's money being moved into defensives. But if there's one thing that we've seen, it's been this huge move back into tech, right? I mean, we look at the Qs, and we're on the verge of a breakout here on the NASDAQ. I don't really get that at all. We look at the XLK ETF, the tech ETF. We've talked about this week already, and this is breaking out. Hershey, maybe it makes strong moves. Maybe there is some room to still be in defensives, such as healthcare and that sort of thing. But I don't know, man. The XLK looks pretty damn strong here, and it looks like it's in breaking out here. And also the XLC, we've talked about very briefly, that has Meta Platforms, Disney, the communications ETF, also is making some pretty strong moves here. This is at an interesting resistance at around 56.60, the XLC is. So we take a look at Meta, for example, that is heavily weighted in this ETF. The performance of Meta today and into The rest of the week probably will be interesting to see how it impacts the XLC. Disney has also been making some pretty strong moves as of late. This is your daily chart, by the way. So since it kind of bottomed out at around $90, it's made a pretty strong move towards that $100 mark. It's up another 1.6% today. So Disney and Meta pretty heavily weighted into the XLC. If you guys aren't familiar with it and what the holdings are, AT&T also in this one. That's made some pretty decent moves. Verizon also is in this one as well. You can see that move there too. So watch the XLC, watch XLK. Those are the sectors that I think are going to continue to be strong as they already have been this year. I'm just so impressed with how they've been so resilient despite some of the fears, some of the craziness that we've seen from the Fed, the banks failing, and all of that. And they've continued to be as resilient as they are. I'm just really impressed by that. So despite all that bullshit, think they're still very strong. So we'll continue to monitor it, but that's something that I've been really impressed with, like I said. Don Mafia says I'll be buying puts on the Q for April 21st. Puts on the Q. So Don Mafia is going short on the Qs. I think it's awfully risky, but I hope it works out for you. I hope you make some money. But if this breaks out here, I mean, the markets are officially open, and this is your daily chart. This is where the Qs are opening up right now at 315. I hope you got something to hedge that. Because if the noise gets louder on a Fed pause, the Qs are going to go absolutely ape shit. And we're going to see a bull move probably like we haven't seen for a while. Not a cut. If we see a cut, the markets are going to freak out. If they pause, though, then I think the markets are going to make some really strong moves. And we're not going to hear from them until May. So there's no Fed meeting in April. We're not going to hear from them until May. So if the noise continues to get louder on a Fed pause in May, then it will be interesting to see how bullish people really get. So Qs right now, you can't really see it too well, but this is your daily chart. You can see how this is gapped up. It's now up around 0.6%. A little bit off of its pre-market highs. We'll go back to the 5-minute here. Oops. Here's your 5-minute chart on the Qs. And it's coming off of its pre-market highs there slightly. Nothing too crazy there, but those are your Qs right now. All right. So let's get into the weird news of the day, guys. This is very interesting. I thought it was interesting. If you guys have not seen The Last of Us, I encourage you to go see it. It is on HBO Max, and it's some scary shit. It has everything to do with a contagion of sorts with fungus, which has never happened, right? We obviously got through the contagion and the pandemic, but that's the premise of the show. There's like this huge contagion of some sort of fungus that infects people, and they get crazy, and it's kind of zombie-esque, if you will. But looking at the real world, the first ever case of a human being struck down by killer plant fungus has happened. A healthy Indian mushroom hunter was left with agonizing abscess in his windpipe, and he ultimately died. He was a 61-year-old, sought help after suffering from flu-like symptoms and difficulty swallowing for 3 months. Baffled doctors carried out scans and showed that he had abscess in his windpipe. Surgeons drained the pus and sent samples to a lab, which revealed that he had caught Condensed purpureum is what it's called. The fungus carried silverleaf diseases in plants, which is spread by airborne spores and turns plants' leaves into metallic color before slowly killing them. So that is pretty scary. It is thought that he got infected while carrying out research as a plant mycologist, which involves working directly with molds, yeast, and mushrooms. The man who wasn't named has been working with decaying material, mushrooms, and various plant fungi for a long time, according to doctors who treated him. The case raises serious questions because it proves the infection can infect both healthy as well as immunocompromised individuals. Writing that in the journal Medical Mycology Case Reports, medics at Consultant Apollo Multi-Specialty Hospital said that the patient attended hospital complaining of recurring cough, hoarseness of the voice, and fatigue, which he had been unable to shift for 3 months. So this guy dealt with this for a long time. Upon examination, X-ray scans of the man's chest returned as normal, but CT scans results showed that the man had paratracheal abscess in his neck. Crazy, right? I mean, he didn't eat the mushrooms; he was just around them, and this kind of gave me The Last of Us vibes. If you guys want to check out what this fungi kind of looks like, here is parts of what it looks like here. And there's this fungi in the Petri dish here. Some scary stuff. Sorry for all the ads. I need to do something about this ad blocker. It's not working very well. But, yeah, there it is. It's a real thing. This is according to the Daily Mail, which is a UK publication. I'm finding that most of my weird news comes from the UK publications. I don't know why, but it just does. Let me know what you guys think about that one. But that is your weird news of the day. That is your weird news of the day. Which, by the way, it's not really related. But I also didn't want to forget that this show this morning was brought to you by AAA Debt Solutions. If you guys are struggling with credit card debt and need to get that taken care of, as we have seen in a lot of the headlines, credit card balances and credit card debt is at all-time highs across the nation. If you are struggling with paying off that debt and need some help, need some assistance on getting that taken care of, go check out AAA Debt Solutions. They can help you out and consolidate that debt into one monthly payment, and they are supporting the channel here. And you can support the channel by helping yourself out and then going and click the link in the description below at AAA Debt Solutions. Thanks and shout out to AAA, and hope you guys can get that taken care of. So appreciate them supporting the channel in that way. All right, so moving on. It's opening day, guys. And in the poll, I had actually asked, and you guys could have written this in, but it's opening day, so happy opening day. It's America's favorite pastime, even though it's not anymore. We all know it's football. It's fine. But baseball is still known as America's favorite pastime. I put in here just a couple of teams that I thought could be in the hunt this year. And yes, I know I might be a little bit biased with the Orioles, but they do have a solid team. They're really young, and I think that they could have some potential to make the playoffs this year. Finally. The Mets were super hot. They won 101 games last year, and they just flamed out in the playoffs, unfortunately. Buck Showalter in the Mets. 28% of you guys think that they might make it. The Yankees, of course, are in the lead. Shocker. I had the Orioles in there, of course, and then the Padres. Also a young team, and they got some pretty big players on that side of things. But let me know if you guys think that who might make it if I didn't put your team in there or a team that you think might make it. Alex Ramirez says the pitch clock may pull me back to watch a game. Yeah, I just don't want the pitch clock to decide games, Alex. That's the thing for me. Like, I don't want it to decide games. And we kind of already started to see that in spring training. If you guys didn't catch that, there was one game that, ended up resulting in a walk because of the pitch clock, and then it actually decided the game. And it's just like, that's a really shitty way to decide the game. I always hate that walks ever decided a game anyway, but I understand it's part of it. That's the rules. But, like, I don't know. Kind of gives me just kind of like, come on, man. Maybe I'm just being an old dude, right? Boston CEO says Phillies. I could see the Phillies being in there for sure. Chris Edwards says the Orioles just can't take a big step back this year and need to keep getting better. Agreed, Chris Edwards. Chris is also a Marylander. So I agree with that. The pitching definitely needs to stay on par. But listen, man, the young talent we got, I think, has the potential to be a contender. Absolutely. But the reason that I brought this up, not only because it's just opening day, but this is stock market related. So if you guys haven't thought about looking towards any particular stocks or thought that stocks could be impacted by opening day, I'm here to tell you that there is actually something to take a look at. So there was a article that came out from Barron's, and they were talking about, what stocks could we look at as it relates to Major League Baseball. So Major League Baseball will kick off its 2023 season today. A trio of rule changes and turmoil of regional sports networks could have major implications for fans and Liberty Braves investors alike. Wall Street will be watching because of the Atlanta Braves through a tracking stock that are publicly traded. Liberty Braves, or the ticker symbol is BRTRA. That is a over-the-counter stock, I believe. Let's just pull up BRTRA. Liberty Media Corporation. It's a Braves, which I didn't even know. Like, I knew that there's a lot of professional soccer teams that were publicly traded, right? But I didn't know that there was media companies related to professional sports that were publicly traded. The Yes Network, if you guys aren't familiar with Yes, that's the Yankees company. Masson is Orioles and the Nationals, and then I guess the Liberty Braves company, media empire here, is also another one that is publicly traded. If you guys are interested in checking that out, that might end up having a good day today. It's already up 0.5%. It looks like it's actually had a pretty decent move on the daily chart, virtually since March 15th. I guess maybe just anticipation of opening day. But that is one that you guys could take a look at. Also, there is Rosenblatt Securities analyst Barton Crockett rates Liberty Media Series C, which is FWONA, shares at a buy with a $41 price target. So I know this isn't like one company or stocks that you guys are probably all that familiar with, but I thought it was interesting to bring up. From the analyst here, Crockett says that it will make it possible for the Braves to transition to the type of owner structure that is more typical for pro sports teams, which is owned by a billionaire who wants prestige and the fun and the challenge of pro sports team franchise. So he says in that transition, I think it's easy to argue that the full value of that's not reflected in today's stock, and so that it should go higher. The game the Braves play will feature a brisker pace than ever. Pitchers and batters will be subject to a timer, as we just talked about, 15 seconds or 20 seconds, depending on whether or not the runners are on bases, and then face penalties, usually balls and strikes. The bases will be bigger to promote more stealing attempts, and infielders will be limited in where they can stand in an effort to prevent infield shifts that have plagued hitters and that tend to hit the ball to one side of the field more often. I'm still on the fence about the shift as well. I've been a critic of all the rule changes this year because I don't know, it's weird. But the league's overarching goals are to promote more exciting plays and reduce the overall game time. If it does make the game more fun, I guess I should be all for it, right? The average game time has crept from an ideal 2.5 hours in the 1950s to 3 hours and 7 minutes in 2022, according to MLB numbers, which is crazy. In the 50s, it was a whole 40 minutes shorter to watch a baseball game than it is today. Isn't that weird? That's wild. The moves come as the sport has struggled to win over younger viewers, especially compared with the NBA and, of course, the NFL. On the flip side, some of the regional sports or RSNs that broadcast games are under pressure. Diamond Sports Group, a Sinclair broadcast group, a subsidiary that handles broadcasts for dozens of baseball, hockey, and basketball teams, filed for bankruptcy protections earlier this month. So, kind of interesting. But this is the Braves network that's publicly traded. And it's obviously off to a good start here. We'll see if there's a resistance that it can break through at around $34. But that is, stock to watch for on opening day. Let me know what you guys think about that. Hit that like button if you are enjoying the stream so far. I certainly would appreciate it. But guys, that's all I got. So If you guys have questions, you want me to take a look at a particular stock, let me know in the comments as we continue on to the markets today. Checking in on the indexes themselves. It is still green across the board. The S&P 500 still up 0.6%. It's actually crept up a little bit at 26 points. The Dow's up 166, or good for 0.5%, so that is off of its highs slightly. The Nasdaq is also off of its highs, its pre-market highs. It's up 81 points, or 0.7%. Crude oil sitting up 1% right now. It's at 73.63 per barrel. And Bitcoin also making some pretty decent moves here. It's up another 171 points. It's at 28,561 per Bitcoin. That's also off of its highs of the day too, but still very much in the green. Philip Stroh says, I'm more of a hockey fan, more physical sport. It is a contact sport, yeah. I hate hockey, though. You too, Chris Edwards. Please look at Boyle stock, says nameless. Boyle stock, huh? What is Boyle? Let's take a look at that. Natural gas. Okay. I should have known that. Natural gas has not been doing so hot, right? It's down to 349. Good Lord. This was something that was doing so well. I think energy is still going to be something that is worth looking at, but natural gas is so volatile. I mean, oil is volatile too, but natural gas is so volatile that it really makes it difficult. But you can't argue the fact that it is at a price point in which you got to just say, is this worth taking a flyer on? And I think the energy is going to come back. I think it's already kind of started. But I'm more of a guy that kind of looks at the oil side of things rather than natural gas, just because it's so unpredictable. I don't know about Boyle, man. It's down 93% over the last 52 weeks. It's also down 75% over the last year to date. I would have to venture to say that I don't know. And let me know in the comments if you guys have been looking at natural gas, and give me a reason why you might think that you should be bullish on this. But I don't know, man. You tagged me. I think Boyle is 3x. It only goes down. Is it a leveraged ETF? I didn't see that it was. If it's a leveraged ETF, then yeah, I ain't about it at all. I didn't see where it was leveraged. If it's 3 times leveraged, I wouldn't mess with anything that's 3 times leveraged. It's just too risky. But natural gas in general is risky right now, I think, in my opinion. I would probably just go after something listen, the XLE, the OIH. If you're looking at ETFs, something that's not leveraged for once, for starters, I should say. This one's going in the right direction. Here's your XLE, right? Primarily weighted with Chevron and Exxon, Marathon Petroleum. It's moving out of this zone right now, and it looks pretty damn good. So I would just stay away from something like that personally. I didn't realize it was leveraged ETF. So if that's the case, then yeah, I definitely would stay away from anything leveraged. Thanks for the clarification, Josh. Yeah, I probably would stay away from that as well. Lord Fenrir tagged me in something in Discord. Was it Discord? Not Lord Fenrir. Oh yeah, I see this. Hold on. Oh, thank you. Thanks for the clarification on Rumble on simulcasting. Okay. That's going to do it for today's show, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. And I'm sorry I wasn't showing you the chart the whole time, but I did have it pulled up. There's your XLE moving out of that zone that I was talking about. My bad. But listen, it has been a great morning so far. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And shout out to AAA Debt Solutions for sponsoring the channel this morning. Also, let's get into birthdays. I'll be live this afternoon at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you hit that thumbs up on your way out the door if you would be so kind to do so. And come back this afternoon at 3:45. We'll cover everything else that's going on in the market throughout the day today. And you got your birthdays. So today, happy birthday to Celine Dion. Eric Clapton. Celine Dion's 55, by the way, which I know it's probably not very nice of me to say, but I thought she was older than that. Eric Clapton, though, is 78. And I thought he was older, too. Richard Sherman's 35. MC Hammer is 61. MC Hammer is older than Celine Dion. Never would have guessed that in a million years. And then finally, we have Mia Rose, who is 36. She's known for being the star of Naughty Office Aid, Asses for the Masses, Cheek Freaks 3, Black Bros and White Hose. Don't let Grandpa babysit your daughter 2. There is more than one of those. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you this afternoon. Bye.